It's recording. There you go. We're going to be making tamales today. Here's our grease. We've already got our hot water. It's probably about half a gallon. It just depends on the size container you use. And we already put in my tamale spice. This is a tamale meat seasoning spice. And I already put whatever you feel comfortable. I put maybe a little bit less than half the bag. And then you're gonna want to go ahead and add your spices. I just shake the salt shaker about that much. That's enough. You don't need more than that. It's probably a tablespoon. Then you put a little bit of garlic, just a little bit, and then you go with your grease. On your grease, I was saying that I don't want more. I don't want to make it super greasy. So when you have warm water, you don't have to whip your grease like a lot of people do. They can whip their grease all they want. This is the way I make it. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more. I'm not going to use the whole pack because I don't want super greasy tamales. I don't want it to be too greasy. So you go ahead and you break up your. Since the water is warm, it's gonna break up your lard for you faster than whipping it the way a lot of people do. I already have my corn husks here. I have my maseca. You want to use the maseca that is the white bag, gluten-free maseca. It's the flour that's used for tamales. This is for tamales. It's gluten-free maseca. So you already got your grease, your spices in the water. So you're gonna take your little dish bowl here and you're gonna put however much you think. So it's not gonna be too. I'm gonna say we're gonna start with about 4 of these bowls because we don't want it to come out too big. And I've been doing this a while, so I pretty much already have the, how much it's gonna need and all that. And my tamales come out really good. So people have their own way of making theirs. That's fine. You do whatever suits you. But anyway, we have the iodized salt. We have the granulated garlic. We have the tamale meat seasoning. This is meat seasoning, but I prefer to use that opposed to masa seasoning because it gets your flour more red in color. And the other masa seasoning seems to have little bits of chile in it, or the dried up chile, and you don't want that in your masa. So go ahead and do it this way. I mean, whatever, whatever suits you. Anyway, you already have your masa. You already have your grease in there, your lard. I prefer the Armour lard, the green one. And you can buy the can, the one that's 5 pound, 10 pound, whatever kind you want. But I put almost that whole box. I put about 3/3 in here. A lot of times when you're using that grease from the meat, I don't have any available at this moment. But when you use the juice of the meat, then you can add just half of that manteca container. 16 ounces there. You could use just 8 ounces. When you have the grease, the meat, meat grease, it's greasy because of the meat lets out grease. So that meat juice, when you use it in here, in your masa, then you don't have to use that whole manteca thing, about half of it, because you're already going to have, it's already going to have enough oiliness in it, grease in it. So that way you don't have to use that much in your masa. So anyway, here we are, maniando la masa. We're breaking it down. So you can see it's got the right color. You go ahead and break it down. I've already washed my hands many times. I got my hair up. And anyway, so you got the manteca already in there. It's already warm water. So it's already helping to melt it down. And that way you don't have to whip it. I've seen some ladies on YouTube, and to each their own. But they spend a lot of time whipping their manteca, and that's just taking away a lot of time. So anyway, with this masa here, you can make close to a good 8 or 9, 8 or 9, 10 dozens. Just depends on how much you put on your tamale corn husks. So we already have them there. We've already washed them. I've already soaked them. I soaked my husks for a good hour or so just to get them nice and tender and soft, because when you buy them at the store, they're hard. So, and they're not usable that way. You have to get them tender and soft so you can spread them. So I've already washed several of them, and I've got another bag soaking also right now. While you're using the ones you already had ready, you can be soaking another bag if you're making a whole bunch of them, tamales. So you can have them soaking and getting them ready. I've already got meat on the stove. I've got chicken on the stove. I like to make chicken tamales. I like to make the pork tamales. I'll make beef also, or cream cheese with jalapenos, bean with jalapenos, or bean and cheese. I've had people order sometimes from me chicken, green chili, and cheese. To each their liking. And anyway, so here we're breaking it down. You just kind of mush it until you feel all that manteca's already mushed up in there. You don't have any kind of clumps. And the water was already almost, it was lukewarm, a little bit more than lukewarm. Kind of medium hot, not super hot. You don't want to do it too super hot because it burns your fingers and all that. So, anyway. So we're here. You keep going with your masa. You make sure that it's all the way to the bottom. You don't want to end up with no white down there at the bottom. You want to make sure it's all mixed in properly. And you want to break up any clumps you might have. And you might not, everybody's different, like I said, but I've had lots of compliments. People that have loved my tamales. So, and then my kids here. They love the tamales. All my kids. So they haven't complained so far. And my mom, my sister, everybody does. But some people like them spicy, some like them regular, some, mild, and some like chicken. Everybody's got their own taste. You can even make vegetarian tamales, like for people that don't like meat. You can even make spinach tamales. Just add your own seasoning and flavorings to your spinach. And then make your corn husks, spread them, and then add the spinach just like you would meat. And we'll show you how to do that all here in a minute. Let's go ahead and get this masa ready. We're here still breaking it down. And like I said, I've already washed my hands several times. And you want to keep your cutting shears and everything you're going to need all at once when you sit down. That way you don't have to keep getting it. And I'll show you as we go. I'm still here breaking up this masa. You wanna feel it completely. And I measured it good to like 4 little bowls in the size container I have. Because look, it's perfect. It doesn't need more masa in there. I had it pretty. When you do it regularly, you're gonna get the hang of how much you're gonna need to according to the size bowl and stuff you're gonna use. So you just keep on going until you break down every little, anything that doesn't feel soft. You want everything broken down. And that manteca's already broken down, but just when I have feel little clumps in there from the flour, I go ahead and keep going until you'll see little clumps like this one. And you want to break them down. But I don't do it like everybody else does, because to me that's too time consuming and you don't want to waste time. The way they do it, the way I've seen other people do it on YouTube, it's too time consuming. And to me, my way is a lot faster. And not only that, it tastes good, and it's been a success for me. It's worked out for me. And I've watched, when I was growing up, I would watch my grandma, my mother, my aunt, and all of them make tamales. And pretty much growing up watching all them cook in the kitchen, and eventually I developed, I worked out whatever works best for me. So, sorry, I'm gonna keep on rubbing this masa. So you just want to do what works out best for you. Everybody is their own person. They can do whatever, whichever way they want to do it. You do the way that it's best for you. Not only that, the easiest way. To me, the way the other people do it is too time consuming, and it's not for me. And cada quien, ¿verdad? So, like I said, I'll make all kinds, whatever kind people want. So kind I'll make whatever kind suits their fancy. Whatever kind they're craving, right? People crave everything, all different kinds of different things. You can even make brisket tamales. I've also cooked brisket, and I'll cut it up and chop it up small and get it cooking. You get it in bigger clumps cooking, but then once it's cooked, you chop it up smaller, and you get it to the size, and I take out all that excess manteca, all that excess uh, fatty parts off of my meats, whatever meats I cook, chicken or whatever, because I don't like all that fatty stuff on my tamales. I don't like all that fatty stuff. I don't eat. And some people will leave it on there and they'll mush it in, blend it in with their meat, but not me. I don't want all that fatty stuff in my tamales. You already got enough fat with that manteca, the large, so you don't want to add more that fatty stuff to your tamales. So I'd rather eat the meat on there and not all that fatty stuff from the fat of the meat. So you take off all that excess fat. And even when you cook your chicken, you'll take off all the skin. Once it's cooked and boiled, I'll stick the whole chicken in the pot back together like that. And once it's cooked and boiled, I'll let it cool for a little bit, and then I skin it. And I take out every single bone, and I make sure that every bone is out of there. Just go several times checking through it. And then I break down my meat with my hands. And when it's cooked, I cook it for a good while, a good hour and a half. But when it's cooked, believe me, that tender, it just starts falling apart, crumpling up. So you can break it up with your hands once you've taken the bone and the skin off of it. And believe me that it'll break up easily, and break apart. You don't have to stick it in no blender. It'll fall apart. You can break it up with your fingers. And I prefer it that way. I don't want all kinds of mushed up from a blender or anything like that. Meat like that. So it's worked this way for me. My family likes it, and all the people that have eaten my tamales like them. So there's been no complaints. People have told me these are the best we've ever had, right? So, like I said, to each their own. You got your own way you do them, and that's up to you. So we're just gonna. This masa is practically ready. I'm already not feeling any little clumps at all. So, some people say about it, throwing a little piece in a glass of water and making it float. Like I said, to each their own. I never do that. I feel the texture with my hands. And when it feels right to me, it's good enough for me. So let's look at the masa here. So it's already, you can see how creamy it is. It's ready to spread. Ready to spread. You don't have any towards the bottom, any white. And you're pretty much got it. You just keep going like this until you don't feel any kind of clumpiness or any manteca or anything that's still whole. You just break it all up. So let's get Sorry. Trying to handle it all with both hands here. Anyway, I'm Mana Moreno, and we're learning how to make tamales. We can make any kind of meat you want to put on that. As long as you smooth out that meat, take out any bones or any fat on it or any hard parts on it or anything that don't belong. Right, you can make any kind, even bean and cheese or bean and jalapeno, bean and some people like cream cheese. I'll make cream cheese and bacon and jalapeno. Oh, those are so good. And I'll make whatever kind people want. So I prefer to start with bowls about this size. Even if I'm going to make a whole bunch, I'll go ahead and make it once I finish this masa. And if I have to make more, I'll go ahead and just go ahead and make me a new bowl of masa. Anyway, I've got meat cooking, and like I was saying, we can use that juice of the meat on the next batch of masa we make. So all that flour you get on your hands, you go ahead and you get it off your fingers, and your hands are clean, so manos limpias para hacer tamales, ¿verdad? Solo que. Anyway, so now you go ahead and get whatever you're going to use to spread with. I have spreaders in my own house, but this is my son's house. I don't have everything here like I do at my own house. So anyway, you take your corn husk. This is the reason you have cutting shears or scissors, whatever works for you. Okay, you measure it to about this length. You don't want to make them super size because you're going to waste too much masa if you make them super size. And if you think it's not straight, you can take your shears, or if it's got little cracks down there, take your shears, just cut off as close to the bottom as you can, and you can even cut the tops like this to make your thing straight. See, like this. It's kind of curved. You can kind of straighten it out. You don't want to cut too much on the bottom because you want to make sure you have a whole corn husk to. And if you think it needs a little bit off the side, you go ahead and take off a little bit. So you go ahead and get your masa on there. We're ready to spread. And you go ahead, like I said, at home I have a smaller size spatula. So you go ahead and spread. See? You cover every you leave up just a part on the top here, but you cover about to here to here. And then I keep these metal plates because I go ahead and set my corn husks and I pile them up. I can pile up like 3 dozens on this metal plate. I'll pile up a dozen here, a dozen here, and a dozen here. And I keep however metal plates I'm going to need. I have several. So however many I think I'm going to need, those are the ones I keep with me. And right over here I have another one. Whatever works. Let's see if this spatula works better than the other one. So you want to go ahead and spread to the sides here. And you cover it up. Whatever comes on your hand like this, you just kind of scrape it off right there and spread it. See, you just some people have those spreaders where you can just go up and down on, but I don't like those spreaders. I'm more used to doing it this way because this is the way I've done it all my life. I've done it like the way I learned from my grandma, my mother, my aunt. So some people can use those spreaders, whatever works for you. But this is what works for me. So you kind of like that much right there. That's where you're going to cut with your fingers like this. And there's sometimes you're going to come into corn husks that are kind of broken or in bad shape. And so let me see if I can find one so I can kind of give you an example. These are actually pretty good. These I got at a certain store and they sell the good kind. There's some stores that will sell you some that are kind of all broken up and all pieces and whatever. So, so sometimes you're going to have some that they're not such a good condition, or some that are blacker in color, or so you can sometimes they're wrinkled up at the bottom. You just kind of cut. Sometimes they have a lot of lumpy down here. You just cut it off, and see, this one's a good size already. And whenever you end up with pieces like these, don't throw them away. These pieces, you can straighten them out. You don't want to waste because nowadays everything's gone up on the prices because of COVID and whatever reasons. So you don't want to be wasteful. You don't want to waste anything. So say, let's see, we got this one off here and this off right here. So say you had this much left over on this one. You can actually add these two pieces together. Cut a little bit off the bottom. These two pieces together and you can make you a corn husk. Then the way you do it, connect them, you spread masa on it and it connects them together. Sometimes your masa is going to come a little bit thicker than this, and sometimes it's going to be a little bit, it's not always going to be the same. If when it's too thick, you need to go ahead and add a little bit more water or whatever. So see, you got your corn husk here. I already put the masa on it. When it's too thick, you want to go ahead and if your masa's too thick, you want to go ahead and add a little bit more water or add more of that meat juice if you have meat juice available ready. See, sometimes you're going to have them kind of, these actually are not so bad where they're all wrinkled and hard in certain areas. These are not so bad, but there's sometimes I bought packs where if you've made tamales before, you'll know what I'm talking about. Sometimes they're so hard and hard to manage and ugly. This is actually a good pack. I was lucky to find this one, but there's sometimes that they're not so great. So anyway, this is tamales we're making, and this is what I mean on the pan. See how you can get stacks. I've got 3 on there, but I'm gonna stack up to probably 12. And a lot of times when you make your tamales, if you're counting by 12s, you might add 1 or 2 extra on each stack of your sets of 3s that you put on your metal plates. Because there's sometimes the accidents happen, and you'll have some that will break in the water or break when you're pulling them out, get messed up somehow, or sometimes you might break down your because you're gonna sample one, so you always want to have a couple extra in there so you can also so you can sample, right? So so sometimes you have some of these corn husks that are not so smooth. You can tell that right there towards the bottom they're not so smooth, and you kind of have to just put a little bit more masa there to kind of fill in the where it's not so smooth, so it won't be hollow or have areas where there's no masa in there. So let me go show you a finished product. We're gonna go. I've already got my meat cooking. Let's go into the kitchen. I got my chicken cooking. I put the whole chicken in there. And this is my pork meat cooking. And I usually wait till it's at least halfway done before I start putting any spices in there, any seasoning. But anyway, here's some of my tamales that I've made. When I cool them down, I put them, once I cool them down, I count them in 12s and I put them in these baggies. Because when you microwave them, you can microwave throw the whole bag in the microwave and they won't dry up on you like when you put them in the oven or in a pan. See? So if you do them like this, they're not going to dry up on you. They're going to heat up evenly. You stick like a dozen this size. You stick it in there for probably good 5-6 minutes. You're going to probably want to leave it at least 6 minutes because you want it to cook. To get, really hot. Some more here. To cook really hot. And when you have meat left over that you've cooked and you didn't use up all the meat, you can let it cool just a bit or a little bit. And then you can put it in these baggies. And then you can freeze it. That way you already have meat available when you need it. You already have meat that's ready. And I got more cooking, but it's good to have some ready. That way you can get started. I have a pot that takes 6 dozens. I got another pot that'll take 3 dozens and a half for when you don't want to cook that many all at once. You'll have your pots where you can cook 3 or 4 dozens in. You have pots where you can cook 6 dozens or 7 dozens in, depending on the size. And then you've got bigger pots where you can cook 15, 20 dozens, however many you want. So, like I said, you just kind of cut down here at the bottom, smoothing it out, the tips, and you go ahead and spread. I like to do mine kind of up to about right here, because that way you'll have bigger tamales. Because the more higher you go, the bigger tamales you're gonna have. Like, see, that's gonna be at least that big. And then you don't want to put your masa too thick. That's why you don't want to make your masa too thick, because you don't want to have your masa too thick either. So, that's how you're gonna do it. And you wanna not have masa that's too thick, because people will complain. They will complain. Oh, that was nothing but masa. There was no meat in there. Da 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 da. So anyway, so you want to not have masa that's too thick. You want it to spread good, and you want to make your corn husks straight, where they're not going to be all kinds of shapes and sizes, and you're going to wonder, what is this? Is this a tamale or what is it? So anyway, so you spread your masa. When you don't have enough oil in it, it's not enough texture in it, enough, where you mixed it right, you're not gonna be able to spread it so smoothly. You're gonna have all kinds of lumps and harder to spread. But when it's made right, you're not gonna have a lot of lumps. It's spread evenly, perfectly. So you want to go ahead and shape it up like this. And there's some that you're gonna have that's all pieces, and some of these corn husks sometimes can be ugly. But you just kind of, like I said, you can take 2 halves and put them together, or you can fill in and cut them. Like if they're all odd shaped, you can cut them up with your scissors and your cutting shears and cut them into the shapes that are perfect. So that's what we're doing, I guess, until this video ends. But anyway, the way I showed y'all those tamales, that the way they ended up, that's how they're gonna end up when we're done. So, out of 1 pack of those corn husks, I guess you can get anywhere from 10 to 12 dozens or so. It just depends on, I guess, how good of a corn husk you ended up in your bag, and if they weren't all breaking in pieces and stuff. You'll if you ended up with some good corn husks, you'll end up with a good 12 dozens, I'd say. 10 to 12 dozens or so out of a bag. So if you're out shopping during like Christmas, Thanksgiving, you want to make tamales for the family. Um, and there's a lot of corn husks up there. You know, they're selling a lot during Christmas and the holiday. You go try to grab you at least 3 bags. If you're selling them, grab at least 6, 7, 8 bags at a time if you're selling them because sometimes they sell out quickly. And if you can't buy them all at one store because they're limit 3 or whatever, well then you can go around at different stores and get the maximum you can at every store. That way, if you're selling them for the holidays, whatever, that way you don't run out. Especially when you get snowed in, like this last holiday season, we got snowed in. Couldn't even get out to the store, and it's a good thing I had prepared myself and I had bought everything I needed. I had cooked a lot of meat, cooked a lot of things I needed, and when I got snowed in and everything, I had water, I had everything I needed because I had already prepared myself. You got keep your gallons of water just in case your water freezes, and to get you plenty of those bottled waters so you can have plenty to drink in case your water freezes. So I had a lot of people where their pipes were frozen, some that lost their electricity, some that their water froze, some their gas was off, and some people froze. And I had my electric heater and I had plenty of water. Even though my pipe froze, when they thawed out, they did not break. I was one of the lucky ones and had my electric heater. So even though um, the gas energy or the other stuff wasn't working, my electric heaters were, and even though my water wasn't working, I still had uh, my bottled water and my jug water. So I was good to go. And then I had pre-cooked a lot of food for all the stuff that I was making. So really, I didn't go hungry. I had plenty to eat. Other people were probably couldn't get out, whatever, because of the snow. But because I'm in Texas and we had that Texas weather, you probably heard about it in the news. And so I had no problems. I didn't freeze. I didn't go hungry. My God takes care of me. So anyway, I was I was lucky. Well, I was blessed. So anyway, this is how your tamales are coming out. And as long as you wash your hands, you're getting that excess mass off your hands. Get on to the next one. And I wash my hands constantly while I'm cooking, so it's no problem. And you clean off your area and everything. So each of these husks you can make about 2 of these, and then the pieces you have left, you don't throw them away. You save them. Everything comes in handy. Everything. So you don't throw them away. You keep them. You use everything you have. There's nothing that is not used and not needed. So everything comes in handy. Like for example, these corn husks, you can sometimes when you have one that's 2 halves and you put them together, you can take one of these, and once you've already put your meat in it, wrapped it, you can take one of these and tie a little string like this around it to hold it together. When you got 2 halves that you put together as one, and then you can tie a little ring around it, and you can hold it together. So everything's used. There's nothing that's not used. Everything comes in handy. Even these little little pieces I'm cutting off. Those come in handy too. Because when you put your tamales all in a pot, you get all those little pieces. You put them towards the bottom. All those pieces, you put them at the bottom. And as you go laying your tamales on the pot, you lay them at the bottom. That way, when you're laying it at the bottom, that way your tamales ain't sticking to the bottom. They're not gonna stick unless you have some other thing that keeps them from touching all the way to the bottom, a steamer or whatever. Who knows? But if you don't have those kind, you're old fashioned like me, and it's got all the stuff that used to belong to mother and whatever, and they didn't have all that fancy stuff back then in the day. And I still like using it, so I like the pots from back then, everything. So you're not gonna have all that fancy stuff that they had back in the day. I mean that they have now. That's what I meant. So I still use all these little crumbs all at the bottom of the pot. You take them all when you're done with all your spreading. You spread all that at the bottom of the pot, and then that way nothing sticks. Anyway, I'm Ana Moreno. You can look for me on YouTube, and I have many hobbies. Many hobbies, but cooking's one of them. But it's not limited to cooking. I cook, I sing, I I teach. Anyway, so you can look for me on YouTube and you'll see what I'm talking about. Even on Star Maker, I love singing. So those are my hobbies, my pastimes whenever I'm not working. I'm making tamales or doing something. They say a jack of many trades, but I'm a Jan of many trades. Or an Anna of many trades, right? I do everything. My daughter says, that's why you're gonna live a long time, Mama, because you stay busy. I don't have a day that's like boring or easy. I'm always finding something to do. No matter what size town you live in, you have a lot going on. You're not gonna get bored. So you're gonna stay busy with cooking, singing, doing YouTube, whatever. So this is what I was talking about. Sometimes you'll have a split in your corn husk like that, and that was not too big. But sometimes when they're bigger, you can take one of these pieces that you have that you didn't use because it's too small, and you can take it to fill in that spot right there. And that way, when you spread your masa over this, that's for that middle part right there, you can spread your masa. Let me strain it out a bit. Okay, see what I'm saying? You fill in that spot right there. Fill in that spot. And then you can take your masa and you could go over it right there, fill in that spot, and spread. And you can still use your corn husk. That way, you don't want to waste any corn husk at all because it is too expensive. Everything's expensive nowadays. So you're using that to fill in that spot. See how it comes together? Comes together. Fill in that spot and you don't waste a corn husk. You don't want to waste anything. Don't want to be wasteful. I was always taught not to be wasteful because growing up we didn't, have everything, and I still don't, but I have enough, and I make a living. That's what matters, right? Blessed. I always say we're blessed when we have more than others. Sometimes, sometimes other countries are not as fortunate as us, and we're blessed. So I consider myself blessed. Not rich, not poor, but blessed. That's all I'll say. Just I'm not rich at all, period. But I'm happy. I've got what I need to survive. And like my sister always says, you'll never go hungry with all your talents. She says, you'll never go hungry because there's always something I can do to to earn money. So I even know how to cut hair. So do hair. I used to be a hairdresser back in the day. I just gave it up because I got tired of it. It